So good evening and welcome to Women's Only Wednesdays on the Donny Chaingang with me, Matt Payne. We are live from the studio. We're running a little bit on the late side because there have been a number of tech issues tonight, which does mean that we have seen a few people struggling to get onto the ride. It shouldn't be too much of a problem because it should get the riders straight in and onto the screen when they jump in, but we will see how that goes. At the moment, one of our stranded riders is going to be our red beacon. Let's see how they're progressing though as we see more and more people start to join the ride at the moment. We're going to jump in across very quickly with at least one of our riders who's out on the course at the moment. I think the team all taking it nice and steady. Let's show you where they're going to be headed first of all on the Women's Only Wednesday on the Donny Chaingang. Because as you can see, the course, it is Mercury Island's Flatland Loop, one of my favourite new additions to the setup. So it looks like the loop is just being started by the riders themselves, going underneath the archway, out and around. And essentially this is basically a course which goes on the flat top half of the course. It then climbs up into the villages and then a fast descent down to the end of the lap. So our riders now are making their way around the bottom of the circuit, a depleted bunch at the moment, and we're hopefully going to see a few people jumping back in again. Just taking a little bit of a look, I think we're going to have Caroline Mansford at the moment as our de facto red beacon at the moment. Caroline out on the course at the moment, so it should be Sarah. She should be in with us, and no, so just working through the tech at the moment to jump in. That means that it could be a little bit less than the 3 full laps, 39k, to make it round and in through the start and finish. 297 metres. It's the opposite of flat, and you can see that if we use our fantastic Velo viewer profile. So from the start, a slight downhill run, and then around the loop, picking up the climb from about 5k right up to that 10k marker, and then starting to drop back down again as we run down very quickly in towards that start area. So pretty fast on the way down. At the moment, we have our de facto red beacon. That is going to be Caroline Mansfield. I think Caroline has inherited the role one way or another. At the moment, as she's out on course, we do have quite a lot of riders out on circuit, and we're just going to jump in because it looks like Caroline just making her way up on to the group at the moment. We're going to jump in with the riders actually in the pack at the moment. So the riders in that pack are just making the way in and along with our yellow beacon that's sitting in there pretty smoothly at the moment. Let's jump in with them live here on the Donny Chaingang, here live on the Donny Cycling YouTube channel. So let's pull some stats up. We're just in with Joe Munden at the moment. Looks like Miss Cookie, our red beacon, joined us. Let's jump straight in. This is going to be interesting. So nice little warm-up. Drop me down. And welcome to Miss Cookie, our red beacon. It was a little bit mad out there for a moment. But we have the gang on board. And we have our 2 beacons on board as well. Let's jump in first of all with Emma. I think we've got, or even better, I think we've got to... Georgina Mahoney, the Cycling Talk podcast rider, also very good cross rider as well, who met up in the wilds of Falkirk earlier on. It looks like we've got Emma Gilbert in with us, John Lee, and just going to take a little bit of a look at Sammy Stewart at the moment. Just distance to the back. Sammy, you might need to get a little bit of a wriggle on here, kid, because got a little bit of pace to pick up. Just got John Lee just in the back here, so I think there's going to need to be a little bit of a regroup here until we get Sammy back in to the fold. So let's take the opportunity whilst they're regrouping. Let's see if we can grab a hold of the ride. Just seeing Caroline Mansford just easing out and jumping off. I know Caroline on the way back from illness at the moment, so We've got a few things we do need to tell you about tonight. Tonight we do have a competition, a giveaway for our riders from the people who are on the ride at the moment, and that is courtesy of Scott Sports. First of all, let's jump in with our yellow beacon, who should be out on the course at the moment. So we will quickly see if we can get hold of the one and only yellow beacon. That is Emma. Emma, how are you doing?
Oh, that was a tight call at the start, wasn't it?
It was a little bit mad, wasn't it?
It was. We're holding nice and steady and waiting for Sammy to get back on. Now she's put some pedals on her bike.
That's always the start, isn't it? On the way through. Apologies to everybody, a few glitches on the way through today, but looks like we're starting to pick up everybody. Remember, there is a late start on the Donny Chaingang, so if you're rushing home from work or you get a bit of a glitchy start, you could jump in part way through. Now, this is quite an interesting route that we're taking on tonight, because it's the opposite of its title. It's not flat by any stretch of the imagination, although I suppose there is some land.
There is definitely some land, and you're quite right, it's not flat. We've got about 5.5k flat start, and then we do start a climb. It's not a steep climb, but it's quite long. And then, of course, we have a descent down to the finish banner.
Well, that's going to really be interesting once we get the aiku, with the magic words, the go, go, go. But that is going to be a little while yet before that kicks in. And, of course, the aim to try and keep people together until that point. I think Miss Cookie and Mansfield at the moment are going to be rolling that bus around nicely together. And good to have Caroline Mansfield back with us on the Chaingang. And Caroline, of course, not been very well with the dreaded plague.
Indeed, so it's great to see her back. And I know she said she's going to have a steady one, so Miss Cookie's going to have company from the start.
Yeah, just see Miss Cookie just closing on the wheels. Got Caroline just up the road, and Sammy Stewart absolutely we're going to be mullering along here. And I don't think it's going to be long before Sammy's back into the pack by any stretch of the imagination. We know Sammy, of course, is super fast. So,
she is, and it's quite good. She's getting a nice warm-up interval to start with.
Well, I've just seen Miss Cookie responding to try and jump onto the wheels of Sammy Stewart. That's a trick that most people in Zwift racing fail to do. Good to see we've got Maz in the gang with us as well. Looks like Emma Clark in here. A real mix of riders in here. And it's going to be interesting to see how that progresses. And, of course, still at that period where we're waiting for those numbers to build when our pros start coming back into training. Still getting lots of holiday pictures on the Instagram feed, I have to say, and I am probably, like you, fairly jealous of everybody sitting in the sunshine and enjoying a couple of weeks off.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? I've had quite a few riders this week say, give me another 2 weeks and I'll be back on next time. So I think as we move into the darker winter nights, we're going to see the numbers swell.
Well, the way to start off is to start when it's nice and quiet and then build with it rather than try and jump in when it's going full bore. So should be interesting tonight. We're going to let you jump off. And, of course, got to say a big thank you to Geoff Watson and Scott Sports for the giveaway, because, of course, we are going to be giving away 2 tickets to go to Ruler Live, the amazing, I don't want to call it a bike show because it really is. And I don't want to use all words like interactive, experiential experience of, it isn't, is it? It is basically Ruler magazine in all its glossy, real depth, but in real life with real riders. So a big thank you to Geoff and the guys at Scott Sports.
Indeed. So let's see who is quick on the mark tonight.
Yeah, it was very quick last night. It was fractions of a second. So we'll let you dive off, and we'll run through the rules of the first little bit to start off with.
Thanks.
Thanks, Em.
Ride on.
So jumping back into the ride at the moment, we're just going to take a little bit of a view as these riders are coming in and along now. They're coming in towards the countryside, the country sprint for the first time here, as they're out on the first part of the course. Have come around the upper loop that was on the map, and the group nicely rolling along together now. You can see the message board popping up every now and then. Everybody pretty quiet at the moment, and we need to explain some very simple rules because we have a great giveaway. The Ruler shows on Thursday, on Friday, and on Saturday. Ruler Live in London. Now, if you can make your way down there and you want to go, you can pick your day, but you have to be on the ride to do so. So if you're watching live, this is your chance to win 2 tickets, you and a friend, to go. We played the game last night, and we did it with the email. And we basically said that there was a trigger phrase, and that trigger phrase comprises of 2 parts. Part 1 are our normal trigger, which is go, go, go. And the second part, which we will have to add immediately after the first part, is 2 ruler live. Now, when those 2 bits are put together by me on the commentary, and they come out over commentary, so part 1 and part 2 are added together, then the first person to pop the message up with that, their name, and what day they want to go, so it might say the trigger phrase, and then it might say Matt, Saturday. First person to get that up on the message board tonight will win those tickets. There is no indication of when that is going to go. Now, let's see who is going to do it. Now, looks like we've got a new rider on here. So we've got Georgina Mahoney. Now, if you've not listened to the Cycling Talk podcast, this young lady is brilliant. Absolutely interviewing so many different riders. Make sure you give it on a follow. So if you listen to the Crosscast, for example, on your podcast and you link via Spotify or iTunes or similar, then link on to the Cycling Talk podcast. Great work being done by Georgina, and we will try and jump in and make sure we find it out on the course. Not always as easy as all that when we're just double checking on here. Just trying to work our way through the riders as we hit the first of these little drags. Now, just in with Mahoney at the moment on the climb here, just being distanced a little bit out of the back because just got to pay attention, you've got to stay in the draft, sit on those wheels as close as you can on the way up the climbs. So the riders, this is the view from our riders just going up the climb here. So Georgia Mahoney just pushing on here. So we're on lap number 1 of 3. We're coming into the village for the first time. Just closing in on the wheel of our red beacon there. And you can just see this group together now. The draft, a really important effect that happens on the Chaingang, particularly on this route. If you are not within 6 meters of the wheel in front, you will be distanced. It is really straightforward today on this one. You've got to have it closed in. You've got to be tight on that pack. If we take our drone up in the air, just on with Lucy Overton at the moment as we come through the village, we're going to try and dodge the hanging lanterns. If you're not right on those wheels, you are going to find yourselves having to work really hard. You can see the riders at the back just having to push up into the group. And this is going to be really interesting to see how the riders deal with this, because it's all about being super smooth, staying in the wheels, making sure you don't do too much work. So you see that gap opening between the front and the second group there, the red beacon group. Just that slight drag up over the top, it makes all of the difference. So you've got to be in the wheels. Now this is where the red beacon group can work together to pull that little bit of a gap back. They won't have to put too many more watts per kilo because there's still 3 of them in there. Let's see if they can get themselves back in again. So let's jump on board. We're going to jump off Georgia, jump across to, this is going to be Sarah Hawkins. So just in with Sarah at the moment. Sarah just riding along, just keeping those that cadence nice and high, 90 revs per minute, as our red beacon doing a great job there, just pulling the gang back in. And that's now the whole of the gang are back together again, I think, as they come out of village number 1 of 2 now. And this is our second part of the loop, and we are climbing steadily. Top right hand side of your screen, you can see that percentage there. So a great job being done by our red beacon, the gang all together at the moment. Now there are 1 or 2 riders that we don't worry about going off the back, one of which is Sammy Stewart. Sammy, one of our regular riders on the WOWDCG and on the standard Donny Chaingang. Sammy riding in that Aeonian kit. Sammy, of course, teammate, in fact, of Emma who is on there now. We know that we've also got Sonia Inslee. Sonia, who did her own private Nationals hill climb. The time that she did out of competition on the same day, same conditions, without a number on her back, would have put her right up there, and I know Sonia would have gone faster. A woman to watch in the sprints. If you've watched the last video, the last show that we did 2 weeks ago, you'll have seen that Sonia was in her group, and she absolutely demolished them when it came to the sprint. Somebody you don't want to tow to the line. If you're in a little group with Sonia, be warned. She's got an explosive kick, and she will get herself across that line very, very fast if she's in at the kill with anybody alongside. And there are plenty of people who've been scalped by Sonia coming in and rolled as they come in and across the line. One of the nicest people you'll meet in cycling, but also somebody who you don't want to take on in a sprint by any stretch of the imagination. So this fantastic route, actually the first time that the Donny Chaingang has come to Flatlands. We've been in Mercury Islands before. It's not something we use all that much because the shape of the routes and the course is not always working, but for this, definitely going to work. We've also got a couple of little adaptations that we've been putting in where we've been shortening routes, and that tends to work. If you want to know where you're heading on the Donny Chaingang, particularly on the Women Only Wednesdays, then don't forget you can sign up to the Donny Chaingang Supporters Club. You can get block ticket purchases. The link on the website, also on the Facebook page. Jump on the Facebook page and join in there. Now, our riders at the moment on lap number 1. The aim of this is to steadily build the pace up. Just in with one of the people who gave us a quick heads up with the tech issues. Massive thank you to Charlotte Colclough. Charlotte, one of our super fast riders, interestingly not gone for disc wheels here, which might be a mistake, even though we've got some climbing. This is predominantly flat, and that downhill run will favour those with the best aerodynamic bike that they could lay their hands on. Now let's have a little look who else we've got in the group, because we've got some very, very fast riders that are with us tonight who, when it gets quick, are going to be taking it on. And interestingly, we've got Donna Short back in the group again. Donna, again, going for a lighter bike here. Really interesting that. Not changed over to a full aero bike. Somebody who was really on form when we were riding in France. We used what was the RGV route and finished, though, at the Ballon Sprint, which gave us a really nice group. So I think this blob is going to make a lap. We'll see if Emma is correct in that. Everybody riding along, rolling well as they come in and over the bridges at the moment. So Women's Only Wednesday on the Donny Chaingang, making its way along over the top of the wooden bridge here, just going across. It'll be underneath the midway point and then heading out and across over into towards the land. Once again, you can just see the shoreline village, and you can just see the slight descent as you come off this bridge. It actually makes quite a difference. It gives you a little bit of a kick and a run in to this next climb, because we're now about to head back in towards the next village, and as we do so, the gradient you'll see on the right hand side is going to increase. So just watching our riders. Let's have a little look through some of the other riders. We've got Steph Rourke in with us as well. We're going to try and jump on Steph. A little bit tricky to get everybody. So Steph in that blue Wahoo top there, and Steph, another of our regulars on, who got Joanne Lee nicely tucked in the group. Kaz is in the group. Kaz Tarry, another of our regular riders on the Chaingang, and looking like those revs, just holding around about 80. That's a phenomenal heart rate, though. If that's your heart rate, Kaz, at 190 beats per minute at this stage, that is really going well. I suspect it's double reading at the moment. It's probably half that. So just taking a little bit of a look across. Seeing Miss Cookie at the moment, our red beacon, just rolling at the back here, keeping everybody together, doing a great job here. Sarah, and one of our regulars on the Chaingang, and scarily lifelike looking avatar as well, actually. That's quite freaky as Sarah goes through. So Sarah's heart rate at the moment, 118 beats per minute. Regular writer, Frode, and interesting to see her in action at the National Trophy when we're in Falkirk. Of course, got a little bit of a gap now before we go to Sunderland. Lots of people, though, riding their local leagues. Let's take a little bit of a look at who else is out here. Julie Bratton in with us again. Good to see Julie back in the gang again, and Julie rolling along well here. So remember, our riders are waiting for that signal, the signal that we are looking to see. Well, the words people need to be typing and sending out is the universal signal that we have, which is go, go, go. But in that same sentence, not separated by a whole load of words like it is now coming out of my mouth, it should also say to Ruler Live. And when they're strung together by me, you need to type that into the message box. You need to put your name and you need to put when you want to go. First person to get it on the message board, well, they are going to have a pair of tickets courtesy of Scott Sports. Massive thank you to them. The only person who actually isn't eligible is Emma, our beacon. Just to prevent anybody thinking we're colluding. Not only that, we're going for a ride on the weekend. No heading off down to London and swanning it about in the big smoke for us, that's for sure. I'm hoping everybody's quiet as they're waiting for the competition. We'll see. I just hope that they can all remember they need to say go, go, go to Ruler Live when they do it. So let's see who will get the message board out there first. Well, we have a winner. It's Caroline Mansfield who's first in on the board. So go, go, go to Ruler Live, Caroline Mansfield Saturday. So it's going to be Caroline who's winning those tickets. Well done to Caroline. Fast on those fingers on the way through. So well done, Caroline. Looks like logistical issues for lots of riders. Maybe we ought to have a Donny Chaingang en masse trip down there. So lap number 1 of the route done. First giveaway of the women's only Wednesdays. 2 fantastic tickets to Ruler Live. Looking forward to seeing all the pictures up on the Instagram and on the Facebook pages. Our riders now on the way into the village. You can just see the group just fracturing a little as you come through here. And this is a really tight little section of the course. If we drop down with our riders, and this is the view as we come in and through here, we can just see. We're going to try and jump in with somebody mid-pack at the moment. Let's try and jump in with Maz at the moment. So you can just see at the moment this group are working well, but it's very hard to spot where people are on the way through. If we take a little bit of a view here, you can just see the course twists and turns on its way through the village. Let's pop that map up at the moment, and as you can see, as we zigzag our way in and through here, you can't really see how much of a gap anybody has got. If you take a little bit of a look behind, we're going to head down this hill very quickly indeed here and head out of town. But this is where it starts to pick up speed, and this is a very, very quick descent down here into the finish. This is going to be lap number 1 complete. Let's jump inside that bunch and let's see just how fast this descent is down here, because it soon picks up as our riders make their way down these turns. Now up at 44 kph, just dropping to -3%, and the group picking up speed. 48 kph, this group now rolling down now these zigzag turns. If you've got an aero, a power up at this stage, and you can see the height that we're losing coming out of the village, this is where you want to use it, because you pick up a huge amount of pace coming down around these turns. You can then use that to your advantage. You just see that group really is nailing it at the moment. Now Red Beacon just sitting laying off at the moment, having to do 3.4 watts per kilo to stay on, and that is because it's 60 kilometers an hour now in this bunch as they come down. The pace continues to pick up, -4% here. Everybody's still holding on into that group. Remember, if our riders do start to struggle, they need to just make sure they find themselves the group, jump in with the Red Beacon if you're at the back. But the riders at the moment coming hurtling down, you can see the pace. Even though we're on 2.5 watts per kilo, the difference it makes in that group. If we take a run back to our Red Beacon, who was solo on the way down there, that gap has opened up despite Miss Cookie pushing much, much higher watts, nearly 2 watts per kilo higher on that descent. And that is because of the gap created by having the draft and not having the draft effect. And you can just see, if we take a little bit of a view back off Donny Short's back wheel, who's on the back of that bunch. Well, you can just see our Red Beacon is just being distanced here, and it is literally the pace coming up. So we're coming up towards the lap at the moment. So over the bridge we go, and remember, when we go through the arch, this is going to be 1 lap of 3 done. So underneath the lap arch they go. That is 2 laps left to go to this lap round. Let's have a little look. The fastest time for that lap, well, the Flatland loop is 22:43, the fastest time, and that's because Sammy started off slow and then came and caught the group up. The pack going round in 24 minutes, near enough. To give us an indicator as we move into the faster section. So everybody holding together well at the moment. Let's see how they're going. You can just see that how fast that gap has opened up back to our red beacon. That is just due to the pace of the riders, but I'm sure lots of people will be going back and joining Miss Cookie as this group does break up on the road. Now, whilst we're into lap number 2, we're going to head across and try and grab our yellow beacon. I think Emma, at the moment, got to be pleased with holding that group together. So, Emma, how are you doing?
We're doing good here, I think, after a bit of a difficult start. We've got the group round the first lap, pretty much all together. That descent is quite tricky, though, to hold a group.
It was very interesting, wasn't it? You saw Miss Cookie, our red beacon, really having to fight to stay in position. And then when she hit the downhill, that gap, because she wasn't right on the wheels, it just opened up, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. The power of the draft on this route is really noticeable when you start to hit that descent. If you're just off the back of the group at the top of that descent, there really is very little chance of getting back on.
Yep, and that's why it's so important to stay on the wheels, to stay in position all the way round, isn't it?
It is. And the safest place is in the middle of the bunch.
Definitely. Well, we're going to see who's going to be able to hold that. I'm going to let you dive back into the group.
Thank you. See you later.
See you in a bit. So our riders continuing this group, holding together well at the moment. And congratulations, of course, to Caroline Mansfield, who came in taking that set of tickets, a set of tickets to the Ruler Live, courtesy of Scott Sports. Now, let's have a little run through our bunch at the moment. It looks like we've got Georgia still nicely tucked into this group, holding a pace well at the moment on the Chaingang. Remember this, the women's only on Wednesdays on the Donny Chaingang. A great way to come and ride with people and have the draft effect and the algorithm holding the same. If you've not gone on a Donny Chaingang and you're one of our female riders wondering, is it for you? Well, great way to jump in is to ride the women's only Wednesdays before riding the open Chaingang on a Tuesday, Thursday, and that is quite simply because the way that the course varies. If you're a bigger rider, so if you're in a bunch with people like me who weighs over the 85 kilo mark, you might be 2/3 my body weight, potentially half my body weight. If you're one of our young kids who are on the ride, well, they can be 1/3 of my body weight, and that means that it is very, very difficult for them to stay on the downhills. However, they do have the power to weight ratio to go uphill. However, when it's a flat out sprint, they struggle, and that is what can happen. But when you're in a group of riders, and if you look at the body shapes, most of our riders on here, very, very similar indeed, and that is means that when we're riding, that the group stays together better, that you get a better pack effect, and everybody goes quicker, which is the whole point of the Chaingang. We want everybody to improve, everybody to learn, everybody to get a great ride out of it, as well as have great fun whilst they're at it. Now, once we do get to that trigger point, and Emma does give that trigger, well, we are going to see riders like Joe Munden in action. Joe, of course, one of our fast riders on the Chaingang. We've got Tracy back in with us. Tracy was riding really well. Tracy Seeley out last time riding in that Rafa kit, the dark blue with the grey bands and those pink bands on the top there. And again, another rider who we know is going to be up there and battling with that group. Will she be able to stay in that front group? Big favourites, of course, people like Charlotte Cogloff, who is very, very quick indeed. We know that Charlotte is always a rider to be reckoned with. We're just going to try and get a view. There we go. Quick spin around on to the side. They're definitely a rider who we know is going to be very quick. But Sammy Stewart, pick of the bunch, could be here. Very fast, riding in that same Aeonian kit on that yellow Trombite white helmet there. The Aeonian race team at the top of the power standings for the Swift power teams. One of the biggest team representations in Zwift, and done with relatively few riders, but a great team spirit. It is not a cast of thousands on the team, but every one of them and contributing to the success of that team. And got to say a big shout out to Carla, who is the person who stitches the team together, doing an amazing job for the Aeonian squad. So Sammy Stewart, one of the two Aeonian riders in here. The other one, of course, are Yellow Beacon, and that is Emma, who's currently riding. In fact, I know the Aeonian squad racing well last night and riding well now. Maximum watts per kilo being called for was 3, and you just seen Lee pushing up to 2.8 there, but nobody's taking this on up to the absolute limit at the moment. And I think people just being a little bit circumspect because they know that we're still out on the out leg of the second of 3 loops around the circuit here. So the group riding well together, but not absolutely flat out at the moment. So the group riding well at the moment, as you can see, just slight interesting glitches on the tech side tonight, but do you know what? It all looks like it's going well, other than the fact that without the other than the tech, but the group are riding well as a pack, and everybody together at the moment. Just keep an eye on them as they make their way through here. Well, you can hear the ride-ons raining down on the riders as they come in and through, riding well and looking good at the moment. It is the gang all in and moving together, the exception the red beacon. But as this pace picks up, expect to start to see groups disappearing off the back. We're just going to take a little bit of a look at the back of that group now. Could see George was in and just tucked in with Caroline Mansfield just sitting on the back end. You can see that George, the younger riders, are having to, that are generally lighter, having to just push those bigger watts per kilo. But George are working well here, 77 revs per minute, just nicely pushing back into that group there. So you can just see Miss Cookie just setting a personal best time in through the sprint arch that we've just gone through. But Georgia just rolling away back into that group, not letting that group go. Don't let the gaps go. Don't let the wheels go. It's really, really easy, this game. If you can stay off the gaps, you've got to sit in the group now. Looks like Clark just having a drop out there. So the watts per kilo is disappearing out completely. That's usually a sign that riders are having issues on the way through. So Emily at the moment is just dropping it. So we're going to see, I think, Emily just having to kick back in now. Sarah Hawkins just dropping out because sore back. So we'll see you again soon, Sarah. I would say the power of soothing gel from Velaskin is amazing. As somebody who's got back issues, lots of abuse over the years and lots of crashes, it is amazing, particularly if you're riding regularly. But hope you feel better soon, Sarah. Now we're just going to have a little look. We've got Georgia at the back here now. You see Georgia having to push those numbers up now as the riders continue up this climb. Can Georgia get into the group here? She's got to push on up over the top. So come on, Georgia. Now's the time to keep that kick. Give it a kick as you roll onto this flatter section here. You've got to give it a push now. Otherwise, you'll be running back to Cookie, who is behind. So don't give up, whatever you do. That's what we always say on the Chaingang, no matter what you're doing. Now, will we see some of our stronger riders going back to go help her out? Is Sammy Stewart feeling strong tonight? Is she going to have a little roll back to give Georgia a hand? Georgia's not all that far off the back. Come on, Georgia, just keep holding, kiddo. Now, we're going to see if anybody's going to go back. Heather Bamford is one of our very fast riders. A massive thank you to Heather, another one of the people who just gave us a heads up because of the issues with the tech on the way through. So Georgia at the moment sits currently at 3.4, and you can see coming back, Joe Munden's gone back here, I think. So Joe just going back to help out. So just going to watch Joe pick up Georgia on the way past, and Sammy Stewart as well. This is what the Chaingang's all about. So you can just see at the moment, if we focus in on Georgia here, you can just see Georgia in the middle, just getting company from two of the fastest riders in the Donny Chaingang. So you can just see giving some draft. On the front it's Joe Munden. Now joining her is Sammy Stewart. And now they're going to just help pace Georgia back on. They've got a gap about 5 seconds. But now, every time somebody's sat in front of Georgia, they are going to be doing big numbers. So come on, Georgia, this is the time to jump in this group. They are going to be here for you to give you a hand. And look, here we go. The group working together. You can see that gap starting to come down to the group in front. And what our riders need to do, they just need to sit in there. This is why it's such a great workout. If you're a strong rider, go back, help drag people up to the front. So Georgia currently getting the tow from two of the fast riders in the Chaingang, two fast riders on Swift, full stop. Joe Munden regular on national podiums, and Sammy Stewart regular on the national road scene as well as riding on Swift. They've got to keep pushing here because as we hit this drag, that draft effect just ticking off. That gap is just holding at the moment. And this is where they've got to keep pushing to get into that group because they're going to come up this little drag here. It eases off again now. And this is where you can make the most of that draft effect. So Georgia working well here. Remember, youngsters always have a harder time when it's flat or it's fast. But here we go. The pace picking up. They go down to 4 seconds to the back of the pack now, and this is the rolling rows as they come in. They've got one more drag into the village. They'll want to be back on by the time they get there. So this is where that kick is. So Georgia trying to give it a little bit of a push, and the guys will respond to that. You see the gap down to 4 seconds now. They're coming. Can they get up there quick enough? They want to be on the heels here of O'Rourke. This is where we're watching from behind. You can just see the gap has opened up. But the gap is to the riders behind, but they're coming. They've got it down. It is coming. Can they get it right the way back in again? The work is being done. Are they going to make it all the way across here? I think they're just about to make contact here. You just see behind there Sammy Stewart, Joe Munden and Georgia Mahoney here on the way back, all the way back into the group. Georgia just pushed right the way to the front, kiddo. This is where make the most of that little draft. So great riding there, well done. Thank you very much to our two riders who went back there. That is to our riders who went back and helped out Georgia. Georgia now in the group and back in again. So a massive thank you to Joe Munden and Sammy Stewart for the work there. Great work. If you've got the strength to do it, to go back and work like that, it is absolutely what the Chaingang and the Donny Chaingang in general is all about. You say the same thing happening on a Tuesday and a Thursday in our open Chaingang as well. So our group almost all back together again with the exception of our Red Beacon, who's just catching people as they go back. And you can see rolling up over the top of the bridge once again. Now they've got one more run into village number 2 before that fast drop down towards the edge. Remember, the gang now has been holding 3 watts per kilo, and remember, the gang didn't have to slow down for those riders to get back on again, but this is where that 3 watts per kilo is going to start to take its toll, because as we run up this drag in towards the village, you just start to see riders will start to drift off the back, and I think at this stage in the game, the riders are not going to want to take the risk of being too far off the back here. So looks like the group's still nicely all together. Catherine still in this group, sat in here. Another rider who had a great ride last time we were out on the women's only on Wednesdays. Heather Bamford and Sammy Stewart's just sat at the back watching everybody here. 2 experienced racers, they know what they're doing when it comes to the bunch. You just see them sat in this group at the back just watching and watching. Munden's just rolling at the back as well. You know, Donna Short sat in here. Everyone's just watching and waiting. You can just tell people are wondering, when is the trigger going to go? When will our yellow beacon pull the plug and give everybody free rein? The pace has been building. You can just see at the front here that pace is holding nicely at 3 watts per kilo at the moment, and that really is just starting to wind at the moment as they start to make the way in and around. Remember, they're going to be heading in back towards village number 2 fairly shortly. So Sonia tucked in here from the Bolsover district, CC the Bolsover gang. Lots of the riders on the Chaingang, best cycling club in the business, of course. I would say that I am marginally biased since it's my home club as well. Massively warm welcome. So many riders going out, so many riders out and racing, riding on road, off road, on gravel, on mountain bikes, on the road bike, time trial and hill climbing, you name it. And one of the strong clubs from the Derbyshire, South Yorkshire border area. Perfect Donny Chaingang territory, that is for sure. And these riders in this group, no, they can't afford to take her to the line. They'll be looking to attack, because it's definitely got a sprint that will match a lot of the riders in here, if not beat all the riders now. You see Gilbert is back in with us. So Emma Gilbert tucked in here once again. Our red beacon still motoring along at 2.7 to 3 watts per kilo. Not all that far behind this group to say that it's got no assistance here now, up to 3.5 watts per kilo. Can anybody sit and hold that on the front? This is where things start to get really tough, because we should be seeing riders coming out the back, but the draft effect on Swift at the moment, the new draft effect, it is taking its effect, and you can just see as they come over that rise and on that little dip down, as they've gone over at 3.5 watts per kilo, the gaps are starting to open, and looks to me like Sammy Stewart's the wrong side of the gap at the moment. Sonia Inslee tucked in here, but just seeing, I think that's going to be Mansfield and Mahoney now, who are in the danger zone, and so the gap's just starting to open out. And when the call has gone for 3.5 watts per kilo, that's higher than we've seen the calls for a little while before we've heard the trigger. At the moment, this group is starting to shed riders, but it is limited numbers at the moment. I think there's some sore legs in there, though. Sammy Stewart at the moment just distance here. Just seeing Kaz Tarry on the back of the group. Kaz needing to just put a little bit of a push in here. So just keeping a check on these riders rolling at the back here, because remember, once we hit this descent, that gap will open, and the rider who's in danger here is going to be Sammy Stewart, because we're now hitting that descent. We're on to this big drop down here. They come sweeping down. We're in with Lee at the moment, and this is where they're going to start winding it up. They're going to drop right off the side of the face down here. Now, the climb up that we avoid at the moment is the steeper climb, but we do the big drop down here, and Sammy Stewart is going to have to get back on here. You see the numbers, 8.5 watts per kilo from Sammy Stewart there to get back into the group. Stewart pushing hard to get back into the back of the group. Behind then, you can see that Mahoney's put in a power up to try and stay with him. She's not going to keep with this pace. Mansfield, I think, going to be heading back towards Miss Cookie, who is behind. Stewart, though, back up into this group. Now let's see where we're going to go. Are they going to sit at 3.5? Are they going to push to 4? Are we going to see the trigger being pulled? How far will that ramp go before they're let loose to do whatever they want to do? It's your guess is as good as mine. You don't think I get told anything, I tell you. This is where we're going to see just what's going to happen. We're sat in with Sammy Stewart at the moment at the middle of two-thirds of the way through this pack. Sammy went back to help. So Sammy Stewart went back to help there. But I don't think with the watts per kilo being called for 3.5 that we're going to see our riders in there, all of them staying in. It's just not going to happen. Once that gap goes, it's very, very difficult indeed now. The question is, will we see another lift in pace? Will we see our yellow beacon call for another? Will it be the same? You can see everybody's putting power-ups in on the way down here. They're using them up before they get to the line here, but it is very, very quick indeed. We're just watching our yellow beacon just riding in with Emma, 155 beats per minute. It's 92 revs per minute, keeping those revs nice and high as they come down here. So here we go. Remember, 24 minutes for lap number 1, with the exception pretty much of Sammy Stewart, who had to chase to get into the group. We should see a whole raft of fastest times now. Here they go. As they come through, everybody setting fastest time, 21 minutes this time, so 3 minutes quicker this time round as they go in and through. And still the pace is being piled on here as they come down here, still sitting at 61 kph. We're going to be into the turn in a moment, around that left turn, dodging the dirt road. And this gang are working well together and still sitting around about 3.5 to 4 watts per kilo. Well, the gang are working well at the moment. A little bit further back, we're just seeing the guys that are working, just trying to keep it together. So just seeing Terry's in with this pack. It looks like Bamford's in here, Gilbert's in here. Mahoney has just come through. Caroline Mansfield going through, both setting new PBs, I think, on the way through as well. Well done to them as they go through. But this is the battle up at the front. And our camera's very helpfully going to a helicopter shot there. That's just what you don't need. It's just like in real life, to be honest, when you're in the commentary box, it goes to a helicopter shot because there's no shot under the trees. Fortunately, we have the power of dropping the drone in. And as you can see at the moment, this group's still together now. Looks like the numbers have just eased back off a little bit here. Everybody just taking a bit of a breather at the moment. If you can take a breather at the pace they're going, because the numbers have piled off. You can see at the moment, though, the front of the group, it is winding at 3.5 watts per kilo, just pushing on and around here. So on to this slight drag on the way up here. This group just pushing up. It's only 1%. It's basically nothing, but it feels horrible when you're riding it. Just a little drag, and you come off that downhill. It really does jelly legs, just like in real life. Then it goes back to 0. Then it kicks again, and then it drops again. This little roller coaster road, very, very tricky indeed. So this is where the selection is going to come from. We've shared a number of riders between here and the red beacon behind. The red beacon currently sitting at about 3 minutes behind the riders that we shared in the village, now sitting at a minute behind this group as they've continued to keep that pace high. The front of the group, no trigger point at the moment. We haven't shared anybody since the village, and it can only be a matter of time before that trigger gets pulled. It's nervous in there at the moment. You can just see the bunch is all holding and holding. It's round the long turn here, so we're starting to head back in towards the next sprint section. I'll just keep a check on the numbers, working our way through this group, and still looks like everybody's just about sitting comfortably in this. So the group are riding well now, are pushing on, but when will that trigger be pulled? Sound like I've said it for a while now. Expected it to go a little sooner than this, but looks like this pace it is continuing to wind. We're just seeing Heather Bamford sat at the back here. I don't know that this is testing people too much, but look at the heart rates, 169. Just work our way through people who've got heart rate monitors. So let's take a little bit of a check. We're going to get. There's got to be somebody on the way through who's got a heart rate. Here we go, 170 from Sonia Inslee. Tracy, 182 here. Just working our way up. Emma currently sitting at 158. So Rourke's in here, 172. People not on the limit at the moment, but definitely pushing towards it. The question is, will there be another ramp? Will we see another trigger? We've not got long to go. Remember, we're at 29k at the moment. And we have basically got, when that says 29.2 right now, we are 10k, less than 6 miles to the finish now. So 10k, 6 miles to the finish at the moment. That trigger not being pulled. And the group are very, very nervously, all expecting it to come at any moment. There's not been much chatter on the message board for a while. So watching the riders come down past the paddy fields, down past the rice fields here in the lowlands on Flatland loop that is anything but flat, with those drags in and through the villages. At the moment, the front of the Chaingang all held together, this big bunch clear. Mahoney, Mansfield, as well as Cookie at the moment, just making sure that they keep it nice and smooth behind. Hopefully forming a group, and looks like Heather Bamford has drifted off the back of this group now. So it looks like Heather at the moment, after having been sat there for a long time, now gone pop. So good riding by Heather. Time for Heather to get her breath back as the group behind start coming up towards her. So another one down, but it's only shedding a rider at a time at the moment, and that is doing the damage here. So Heather just drifting back now at the end of that one. Let's see how these riders are going at the moment. We're now approaching the 30.2, 9k to go. The clock is ticking down here. They're going to run out of time to do some damage if they're not careful. They're not going to shed the big sprinters in this group. Well, no sooner do I take a drink of Grand Tour Coffee, but the go goes. The trigger is being pulled. The pressure is going to be on up at the front of the group. Let's get up in the sky here. Now, this is where things get really interesting indeed. I think the first casualty of that trigger being pulled is going to be Sonia Inslee. Oh, congrats. Well done, Sonia. Sonia not going to be in the sprint now. Nice and easy for her. She's got Heather Bamford behind her. Georgia, Caroline and Miss Cookie as well. Now, let's take a little bit of a look. In trouble at the moment is Kaz and Emma. Come on, guys. Time to push on here. So Emma just pushing. Cass, Terry, come on, guys. Got to push, got to get into the back of that pack. You can just see Tracy Seeley making the back of that group. So after the initial kick from that go, 3 riders gone. Sonia Inslee has gone, Cass Terry and Emma Gilbert go. But the pack are just about holding it. And you know what? I wouldn't say that they are out of it behind, because they're not losing too much ground at the moment. The time tumbling down through the sprint that time. And I think now starting to see Rourke at the back here, just having to push back in again. Maybe just eased off the front a little bit too much there. And it's really, really about fine-tuning your pressure as you come off the front. You don't want to do too much work. However, as you let that go, you don't want to come straight out of the back of that pack. So Rourke nicely back into this group. Remember, we're now going to be coming in to the next climb into the village. It comes up. You can just see as we come at the end of this dry valley up in towards the climb up into the village. So Looks like Maz in this group as well. 65 revs per minute here. Pushing some big numbers though from Maz. Proper full-on aero frame there and aero wheels. And you can see behind at the back of this group we're starting to see a few more power-ups here. So power-up here from Rourke. Just trying to keep that climb to its minimum effect. It's 10% reduction, so if you weigh 60 kilos you'll lose 6 on the way through. Up on the front though, Charlotte Colclough has gone for this. She started to drag this out and it's doing damage behind Colclough. Look at the string behind Colclough, Munden, Clark, Stewart. Then it's going to be Catherine, Yellow Beacon, then Julie Bratton along with Overton. So let's have a look. 2 riders at the moment with a little bit of a gap. Sammy Stewart chasing hard behind to try and keep that gap down. Clark jumping on a wheel. Then it's going to be our Yellow Beacon. Beacon putting in a draft to power up in there to try and get in and across that gap. But now this is where the gaps have really opened up. So if we run from Sonia, we've got a second up to Kaz, then it's 2 to Gilbert, 26 to Rourke. Rourke has got Tracy just in front of her. Then it's going to be Maz Heffron and Donny Short, both very strong riders. Short, who's right in at the kill last time. Then it's Overton, Lee and Bratton. They are right on the heels of Catherine and Emma, our Yellow Beacon. Then the gap goes. Clark at the moment fighting to get in touch with Sammy Stewart, who's just about to make contact with our leaders. So that damage that was done by Charlotte Colclough really has dragged them out, but it's taken 3 riders clear with 1 chasing rider behind. And I think Clark knows now at the moment this is going to be a fruitless test trying to get on, because still putting the watts. So look at this, 4.3. Now can Clark close this gap down? Can Emily Clark get back in touch? Come on, Emily, time to push. You see them in front, and this is what is so frustrating when you know that they're not that far up the road. You know that there's not that much of a gap. If we take a little bit of a look back, you can just see them coming. The Yellow Beacon is working hard behind in this group. You can just see this is that chasing group of 3. They can see Emily in front. Emily can see the group in front, but those gaps just starting to open up as we come up past another set of the pens here. No, this isn't where we started, remember. This is a second set of pens actually out on a circuit. So, as you can see, our riders at the front. Charlotte Colclough in the blue. Fast rider, regular winner of the Donny Chaingang as they come into the finish. Joe Munden, another rider who we know has got a phenomenal kick, could take the win here. Sammy Stewart, again, another proven winner. All 3 of these riders in this leading trio. To quote the great Hugh Porter, a triumvirate of talent at the front of the race. Now, behind Clark, just staying clear of the chasers behind, and I think they want to be on our heels here. They want to try and close this gap down. 3 riders together, so that's a Yellow Beacon there, Emma Payne, Julie Brown, and then Catherine with them as well. Then we've got this next group behind. They're only 5 seconds behind here, so this is Overton and Lee. They could close that gap down if they could keep pushing on. Then it's going to be Short and Heffron. They see that Yellow Beacon. They know it's not all that far. They're 6 seconds clear of Tracy and Steph at the moment, so Tracy and Steph Rourke then in the gap. Then we see Inslee and Gilbert along with Kaz Tarry, all very close together. Cookie and Mansfield already got in the bunch together. They're working hard. They're currently about a K behind, 1.3 K behind Georgia, who's just on her way up the climb there. But at the very front, you can see 3 riders together now. They can't afford to relax too much. They've got to keep this on, is because they will have the chasing group behind. That beacon is not all that far behind them. You can just see that pillar up in the sky as they come across the island here. Behind, though, the chasers all working well. The question is, who is going to be able to pull this back? Remember, we'll cover everybody in through the line. So Maz and Donna there, and then it's going to be Steph, Tracy, Sonia, and Gilbert and Kaz, basically separated by not a lot at the moment. As they make their way up, it's going to run back up towards the front now. So Stewart at the moment sitting on the back of Colclough and Munden. So Stewart on the way back from injury, and certainly looks to be back to a best. The only rider at the moment, just going alongside Colclough, and them sandwiched in between Colclough and the cryogen rider. and that is Joe Munden. So Joe sits on the right-hand side of this trio at the moment. We've then got Colclough and Stewart either side at the moment as they come into this next hamlet on the way across. This is the hamlet that's developed at the bottom of what is one of the big gravel climbs. If you turn left there, it goes up towards the very top of the Temple KOM. However, our riders staying on the tarmac, heading down and across here, and at the moment these three riders are working well together. Then it is going to be Clark, our next rider on her own, being chased, and that gap is now down. It's down at 4 seconds between these three, so let's see if they can pull back that gap. At the moment, Stewart, Munden and Colclough are clear at the front. Well, not all that far behind are Bratton, Overton and Lee, and I think Overton and Lee are not all that far off that group. They've got Short and Heffron working well. They can see that beacon in front, and the beacon starting to close down. The beacon group closing down on Clark now. Is Clark just taking a bit of a breather here? So you can see them coming. We can see them coming behind as well. So that gap is going to close right down as they come in and across here. They've got to pick her up and use the strength of Clark. Clearly strong enough to almost go with our three leaders, who are all jammed together at the moment. So Colclough, Stewart and Munden, the three riders now making the way in towards the second village. When we go through this village, go along through village number 2 before the drop down into the finishing line. Remember, at 35.8, we finish at 39.2. Behind then, so our group behind still haven't made that catch yet. And just seeing Clark is up here, riding strongly. A big ride on definitely over the top there of Clark, who is still holding off the chasers behind. They're closing, but they're not closing fast enough to give her any rest behind, and this is pretty mean. It's just like leaving her out there almost to dangle at the moment. Now then, we've got Overton and Lee behind, then it's Heffron and Short all chasing our leaders, though they're all together now. This is the little run down. There's a dip down and then a kick up as we come up into the village. This is pretty much the last of the kicks as you come in. Who is going to use this to their advantage? Are we going to see an attack? Because there's not much climbing left here on the way through. It's a 3% drag now. You can see those numbers coming up. Colclough up at 5.2 here, just pushing on into the wheels of Munden as they come through, but it levels out now. Now we're going to be taking that left turn. Expect the village sprint time to tumble. It was Sonia Inslee who had it at 12.2. We'll see if that's going to, how much that's going to come down, because they are really motoring on now with Sammy Stewart up on the front. Munden goes back to take up the pace. They're going to go through here. They're going to beat that 12.2 time. They do 11.47 that time round as they come through. They're gobbling up the sprint jerseys on the way at the moment. Well, these three are riders riding well on the front now, and it is effectively downhill all the way to the finish. They're coming around the side here. And they basically have that scarp to drop off. We drop off down the side of the Dragon's Claw, drop down in towards the lower roads. You can just see out in the distance the road the riders will be taking as they head out and away. However, this drop is where it's going to pick up now. Is anybody going to go for a late attack here? This is going to be very, very close indeed. There's a minute back to the group behind it, and I think all together now the chasers behind. So the chasers behind basically all together. We are just going to have to focus on these riders for the moment, though. So our beacon just coming out of the village. You can just see it just up on the top of the hillside. Colclough in here, Munden's in here, Sammy Stewart's in here. Who's going to have the sprint? We saw a phenomenal sprint the last time out. It was Sammy Stewart who took the sprint just by half a wheel. We thought she'd lost it. We thought she got her timing wrong. She rolled it just over the top in time. I wouldn't want to be up against any one of these, never mind up against 2 others or 3 of these in a sprint, because these 3 athletes absolutely phenomenal. They've got a phenomenal kick, and this is going to be very, very fast. They've got to get the timing right. You can just see map top right hand side. You see that arch just opening up. You can just see it off in the distance. We're going to try and jump right down in with our riders. Let's get down on that drone cam. So at the moment we're in with Sammy Stewart. We'll pick on the rider who took victory last time out. So Stewart in the Aeonian kit now. She's the rider who took the win last time out. You can see that Archie's coming. Munden's on the front here. Coldclough's up at 5 watts per kilo. Is she going to just drag strip it in? It's literally round the corner here. You've got to push hard for the line. It's coming very quickly now. Coldclough puts in the power up. So Coldclough kicks. The answer's going to come. Is it going to come quick enough? Coldclough has gone off the front here. All 3 riders go, but Coldclough times that to perfection. Coldclough rolls Munden and Stewart as they come through that time, and that was phenomenal ride. It's so difficult to judge that finish right. It comes on you very, very quickly, but great riding by Charlotte Coldclough, who takes top spot. Behind then looks like it's going to be our Yellow Beacon who's going to come through. Next, just gapping the rest of the group behind. Just going to take a look. So a great ride by Sammy. I'd love to see the messages afterwards as well. So next in is going to be our Yellow Beacon. That is going to be Emma, not holding the front of group there, but comes through in 4th place. Great riding by Emma, the Aeonian teammate of Sammy Stewart. Charlotte Coldclough beating the 2 Aeonian riders today. Catherine's just takes that from Brad Brown, was closing the fastest there. Behind Emily Clark comes through as well. So I think that was going to be Brad, Catherine and Clark going through. Behind them then it is going to be between Overton and Lee. Who's going to take it? This is the final kick in, guys. Who's going to have this? Who's going to be able to take this? You can just see the watts per kilo suddenly go up through the roof as people realise the line is there, but it's going to be Overton who just gets that from Lee. Behind then Short. Now we know Short can sprint, so can Maz. Who's going to take this? They've both got a kick on them. Who's going to be able to pull it out as they come in? I think they're absolutely wrecked at the moment. As they come to the line, it is going to be Short who takes it from Heffron. Then just taking a little bit of a look back, it's going to be Tracy leading these riders out at the moment. So she's got Steph Rook on her heels here. So these are our next 2 riders that are on to the run in here. Remember, the arch is coming. It's just around the corner. They've got to get they can see it coming. They know it's at 39.2. Here comes the kick here. Rook has got the boot down. She's gassing it here. Is she going to make this? It's going to be clear, just clear of Tracy. So big sprint then, 9.9 from Steph Rook. Big numbers going through. Another personal best as she goes in. Tracy follows her in. What good riding as they come through. Just a little further back, you've got Sonia Inslee, who is ahead of Gilbert and Tarry. Can Gilbert and Tarry close it down? They've got a little bit of distance to do this. This could be possible. Well, you can see the gap from our helicopter at the moment. The 2 are trying to close down on Inslee. They could pull her back before the line. There's plenty of twists and turns that will turn into a 3-up sprint at the moment. Inslee's the rider in front. She's got to stay clear. The 2 are coming behind, and they are coming quick. You can see them just behind Inslee at the moment, coming around that turn. So it's Sonia Inslee in the all black. It's Kaz Tarry in that teal, blue and green. Then it's Gilbert in the Swift grey at the moment. Gilbert had a little bit of a disadvantage on that uber lightweight setup, so going to be having to power more watts. The gantry is coming. Let's jump in with Inslee, who's on the front here. So Sonia Inslee of the Bolsover squad is going to come in first. They're going to have to pull something magical out, and she's doing more watts per kilo. She's going to go and keep that lead. She's probably going to extend it coming in. Gilbert's now up at 5 watts per kilo, but Inslee times that to perfection. Then Gilbert comes through. Great riding by Gilbert and Tarry there, all the way into the line. Fantastic to see that finish behind. Well, our Beacon's out on course, and we've got Heather Bamford out and riding strongly. Hopefully we can get across to our Yellow Beacon, who is probably doing a little bit of recovery right now. So Emma, how are you doing?
All good here, Matt. Having a lovely little spin down to the Blue Banner.
You sound far too chilled out there.
Well, yeah, it was good fun that, wasn't it?
It was good. I like that route. I must admit, I've raced that a few times on Swift, and I love the way that you can really wind it up into the finish and you have that downhill run in, which just makes it perfect for somebody like me, who's maybe a little on the heavier side than most riders.
Yeah, and the group was so good tonight that at 3.5 watts a kilo, we had nearly all the group together. I just was tempted to take it to 4 before I let it go, but I held on a little longer than normal.
I know it's a very late go, but it certainly left fireworks at the end, and that sprint at the end, Charlotte Colclough timed that to perfection, because she had, you've got Sammy Stewart, who took the win last time we were out, up against Jo Munden, who we know can take the win at the Chaingang. But Charlotte proving why she is such a strong rider time and time again on Zwift, because she got that to perfection and dragged it nicely out, didn't need to go too far into the red.
Yeah, and it's fantastic to watch them go, and the power they just leave the group at, it's just amazing. It's really inspirational to have them ride with the group, and for everybody really, and it's so wonderful to have such a strong group of riders and women out riding today.
Definitely, and just watching Heather Bamford. I mean, Heather's been racing and has got lots of miles under her legs. Currently maybe disadvantaged a little by that lightweight bike, but rolling into the finish and going to come across the line. And great to see Heather back on the Chaingang, a real regular now.
It is, and it is great to see, week in, week out, people are joining us. And I think Sonia was on the main Donny Chaingang, the open Donny Chaingang last night as well. And,
yep.
And I know the other week she did 3 of them. So it's fabulous to have her on the Chaingang and riding so strongly.
Well, we've still got our Beacon group in, and got to say a massive thank you. Very, very gritty, determined log on from Miss Cookie, our Red Beacon, who was having tech issues getting on, as a number were. Apologies for that for people who were struggling, but Cookie on. No comms from Cookie tonight. One of the things that has not made it through the through into the finish is the comms, but riding strongly, and got Caroline Mansfield, the winner of our ruler tickets as well. And of course we've got the gritty giveaways coming up next week as well on the Chaingang. So great to see everybody involved, whether they're riding, sponsors, or being our fantastic Red Beacons.
It is, isn't it? And it's a hard job to be a Red Beacon without a message board. But as you say, there's so much coming up on the Chaingang, and in another 2 weeks' time we do our Women's Only Wednesday again. But those open Chaingangs on a Tuesday and Thursday are there for everybody, and it's fabulous to see them week in, week out.
Definitely, and our next rider's on the way into the finish. I think Caroline just squeezing those pedals a little. She's a competitive soul. Definitely.
She is, and I bet she's missed being on the bike as well.
I'm sure, and quickly easing off as Cookie keeps on rolling. Well, we're going to let you warm down. I know it's going to be a bit of a busy night tonight, but great riding by our riders. Thank you very much, Emma. Look forward to seeing you in action on the next Women's Only Wednesday, and make sure you tell your friends and join in and come and join the gang.
Thanks, Matt.
So thanks very much to Emma, who now is going to be in to her warm down. We've had a great Chaingang, despite those early teething troubles. Great to see the riding, and that finish by Colclough. What time, a really tricky finish. If you are riding on the open Chaingang, you might want to have watched this, because we have a lot of routes planned on the way through to December. Russell, it's one of the best bits of the job is actually working out where we're going to go. And again, the women's Chaingang here today showing just what can be achieved when you work as a group, bringing people together, getting Georgia back on the group there, bringing the Red Beacons back in, the Red Beacon shepherding people in and out. And that is what it's all about. It's all about all of our riders, from our fastest sprinters to people just coming back from illness and into recovery. So a massive thank you for everybody who has been riding tonight. A huge thank you to Joff and all of the team at Scott Sports. I hope you have a great time down at Ruler. I know Chris Ball and his guest from last night's Open Donny Chaingang, and we're going to see Caroline and her guest from tonight's Women's Only Wednesdays on the Donny Chaingang, going to be down at the Ruler show, and look forward to seeing all those pictures. Make sure you tag the Chaingang, and of course tag in Scott Sports. If you're down at the Ruler show, you bump into some of our Chaingangs as well, and Don't forget, of course, make sure you subscribe. Next Chaingangs, well, it is 2 weeks to our Women's Only Wednesday. Looking forward to that one. We've got plenty of great routes coming up. There's some big stuff, some flat stuff. There is a real mix coming up. And some very short circuits as well. In the meantime, of course, we have the Open Chaingang that is coming up on Thursday, and then Tuesday and Thursday of next week. Next week is Gritty Week, so to coincide with the Climate Summit, to coincide with COP26, Gritty with a sustainable sports apparel, going to be with a great giveaway, some great discounts, and that is coming up next week on the Chaingang. But of course, tomorrow we have our first trip into the volcano on the Donny Chaingang. I hope you're going to be watching. Make sure you subscribe to the Down in Cycling YouTube channel. From me, Mark Payne, have a safe day tomorrow, and make sure if you do get a chance to get out, enjoy it, and we'll be back here in the studio, same time, same place, tomorrow.